thing I'm going to talk about is the date of your hire and the effective date of your disability are keys to overcoming a pre-existing condition clause. The disability insurance denial toolbox is full of denial tools, and one of the favorite is the pre-existing condition exclusion. What is the pre-existing condition exclusion? There's no uniform pre-existing condition clause, but I'm going to give you an example of a typical clause. And the clause will probably go something like this. You're not covered for disability caused or contributed to by a pre-existing condition or medical or surgical treatment of a pre-existing condition unless on the date you became disabled, you have been continuously insured under the group policy for 12 months. Pre-existing condition means a mental or physical condition for which you have done any of the following: consulted a physician or other licensed medical professional, received medical treatment, services, or advice, undergone diagnostic procedures, including self-administered procedures, taken prescription drugs or medication. B, which, as a result of any medical examination, was discovered or suspected at any time during the 90 days just before the date your insurance became effective. And it went on to say that during the benefit waiting period and their own occupation period, you're required to be disabled only from your occupation. Now, that's a lot there. And let's sort of take this apart. And to do that, I'm going to tell you the story of Lucy Fonesca, found in the case of Fonesca versus Standard Insurance Company. It's a Louisiana case. She suffered from psoriatic arthritis, lupus, migraine headaches, fibromyalgia, depression, and anxiety. But many of these conditions predated her application for disability insurance and could legitimately be excluded as pre-existing conditions. When she applied for her disability benefits, Standard denied the claim under the pre-existing condition clause. Now, the central issue in this case was when she was hired and, consequently, when her long-term disability benefits became effective. The court found that Standard used a date of hire that was probably incorrect. But guess what? She never challenged the hire date during the internal administrative review process. That would have allowed Standard to get the right information, address the issue, and address the discrepancy. And as a result, the court said, well, we can't award benefits. We're just going to have to send this back to Standard to resolve the discrepancy. We're going to have to get this clarification from your employer. Now, what that means practically is that if her claim is denied again, she's going to have to file another appeal and perhaps end up back in court. But this is an easy mistake that should have been corrected. The 4 things that should have been done on appeal are the following. She should have obtained verification from her employer as of the date of the hire. She should have obtained a copy of her personnel file documenting her application for employment and her date of hire. She should have obtained copies of material in her personnel file that included the date she became eligible for her long-term disability benefits and coverage. And that could have been also through the form of a summary plan description. But lastly, she should have looked at her pay stub to determine the date on which any deductions began for her disability insurance. Those things would have established not only the correct date of hire, but the effective date of the policy. Now, once she did that, once she knows the period of time in which she's got to look backwards, if you will, she should have gotten her medical records and her pharmacy records and analyzed every one of that laundry list of her medical conditions. She should have determined which medical conditions were excluded and which medical conditions could be developed as the basis of the claim. It ended up basically being a Heinz 57 type combination of a lot of things that probably were not properly the basis of her claim and probably were not well developed. Remember, she's required to prove that she's disabled during the elimination period. She's got the burden of proving which medical condition is the basis of her claim, that the medical condition was in fact disabling, as that term is defined by her policy, and that she remained not only disabled during the elimination period, but thereafter. And any one of these points in time are proof points, and if she doesn't meet them, can be the legitimate reason for a claims denial. This can be really hard to do if you don't know the dates you're working with and you don't know what medical conditions are excluded. I think if these steps had been taken, the court would have been able to rule on Standard's application of the pre-existing condition clause and determine her entitlement to benefits instead of sending it back to Standard. What a big mistake.